I'm doing a valve grind. You'll need like a valve spring compressor to take the valve keepers out. There's different ways, but there's a spring here. It's a very heavy spring, and it's got valve keepers that hold it there under tension. And about the only way you can do it, get it out, is with a tool like this, and then you put it there on the bottom, and then you turn this in, and it brings the spring forward so it can get to the keepers on the end of the shaft and take the valve out. Now, doing it yourself, you'll need a valve grinding compound. This is coarse. There's coarse and fine. You start off with coarse, and you want a nice edge on your sealing surface. So we're going to put it in, and you get one of these suction tools, and you try and not sticking very well. They got to be just about new, or they don't stick very well. This one's almost new. It worked pretty good for the first 3 valves. I've done the other 3 already. Get it wet, maybe that'll help. And every now and then pull it out and do that. Move it around. Yeah, it's getting better. I'm going to keep doing this for a while, and I'm going to take the coarse off and put the fine on, so I'll turn the camera off. Okay, I did it for a while here. You can see this is what you want. You want a nice gray sealing surface. You can see it here on the valve seat. Also, you want to wire brush the carbon off, and also get in here and dig out any carbon accumulations in there while you're at it. So I'm going to put this valve back in, and the machine shop would have charged $60 or $80 for. Here's some carbon on the stem here, so you want to get that off. Machine shop would have charged $60 or $80 for this, so save myself some money. So anyway, I'm going to clean this up and put it back in and put the valve back on. I've got this valve back in, the spring compressed. It's not in entirely. There's one little trick I've learned. Got 2 of these valve keepers, and you put them on the end of the shaft, and then you lower the spring down over it. But they fall off real easy. So I use it's called Permatex #2 glue. It's one of these, or gasket maker. I put a little bit on the underside of at least the first keeper, because you have to rotate it around and let it hang upside down while you're putting the other on, and they always fall off. So it acts like glue, but it won't hurt anything leaving it in the engine. And then I use pliers like this, clean them off. So to set it in there, helps have a flashlight too. It's pretty dark. Anyway, it went in there really nice. So I'm going to do that, and then rotate it around and put the other one on it, and then lower the springs down over it. Okay, the valves are back in. What you want to do, you want to get your cylinder ready to put the pistons back in. You need a cylinder hone. Never put new rings back in a cylinder that hasn't been honed. The rings won't seal. So you want to spray it first with a light oil. I use WD-40. And you're not going to hole them too much. You just want what they call break the glaze, so the rings can seat on fresh cast iron. And move your crankshaft so you don't hit the journal part. Okay. Now the rings don't go all the way to the bottom, so you don't have to go all the way to the bottom of the cylinder. Center it. Go up and down like that. That's probably long enough. Okay, we need to put the rings back in. I've honed this. Chuck this into a drill, and honed it briefly up and down. If you don't do that, the new rings won't seat right. Now, when cylinders wear, there's always a ridge at the top where the piston rings don't get to, because the piston rings are down a little bit on the piston. It doesn't wear. The problem is new rings can hit that ridge and break. So you got what's called a ridge reamer. Like that. It's got a cutting tool, one cutting tool, and it's good to lubricate it first. Cuts better. And then you put this in, you adjust it. It's already been adjusted. I already adjusted it. These shoulders rest on there. And then you expand it. Turn this nut. So it spreads out. And then you turn it and it cuts that ridge. Got to make sure it stays flush. And then it loosens up as it cuts a little bit. And so then you tighten it up some more. It usually doesn't take very much. Make sure it's all the way down. Hold it down. There we go. And then it cuts that ridge away. I didn't have much of a ridge on this side. On the other side, it's quite a bit. I did the other side. I can see there it cleaned up that ridge pretty good, and there'll be a little bit of middle filings in there. I'm going to go with that. Looks pretty good. Okay, you want to get your pistons. Got to make sure when you put them back in that you put them in right. And when I took the piston out, I put the lower cap back in where it's supposed to go. But you also don't want to switch pistons in the different cylinder bore, and you also want to get them aligned right. Here I put F. There's a groove there. F for front. And the groove goes towards the front of the engine. This is to the left is the front of the engine, so I know that this piston needs to go back in like that. And I know I put white out here to show that this is the correct cap for this, and I left them bolted together. So you want to take your old pistons off, and on this piston there's carbon. Go ahead and scrape off any carbon. I'm going to get that better, and then I'm going to take off the old rings, and I'm going to spray it, and then I'm going to put new rings on. Okay, I've taken the rings off, the old ones, and check your check under your rings, make sure there's no carbon in there. You can use an old ring. You break an old ring, and you can, that's usually what they tell you. They look pretty good. So you start with the oil ring. Put this spacer on first. You can have different design. The old one was the old design of the piston that was on it, ring was on it, was like this, cast iron with a spacer in it. This one's 3-piece oil ring, and it's got two things you put. Now you got to find your gap where this ends. You don't want to overlap gaps. There's my gap right there. It's on that side. So I'm going to put this one, I'm just going to kind of bend it around. Be careful. I think you put the top one on first. Don't stress these any more than you have to. Don't want to put a kink in them. Okay, the oil, this thing end gap is over there. I'm putting this one over here. Maybe not so far apart. Anyway, probably okay. And I'm going to put this one on. I'm going to put the gap. Going to end up about over here. You have a ring expander tool. If you're queasy about putting these on, which I am, you can just kind of wind it over the first and then work its way down. Okay. Just work its way down, don't try and do it all. I wanted to buy a ring expander, but I didn't. Okay, this goes on the bottom. Man. What I need is a little screwdriver to put in there and pry out. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a screwdriver and pry it out. Get that back last one down. Okay, I got the oil ring on. I use this screwdriver to help push it around. Now these rings are supposedly chrome plated. I guess that means the oil ring. These, you can see these are chrome plated. The compression rings are not chrome plated. Looks like just cast iron. And you got to get these rings right. This one says top, and that makes it pretty easy. And this one says second. Plus it's got a bevel. They differ. This one's got a bevel right there. The bevel always goes up. This one looks like a square ring. This one's got a bevel. So put your rings on. You can start with, get it there in the first groove. And be careful, you can snap these real easy. Okay, I got it on the first, now I'm going to work it down. This is the second groove ring, so I'm just going to work it down like that. Take this out. I have a tool to do this. Most people do it this way. Okay, that wasn't too bad. and stagger your rings so the gaps don't end up overlapping. Then we just have to put our top ring on. It says top, so that means it goes towards the top of the piston. Should be pretty easy. There. Okay, it's on too now, and I'm going to stagger the gaps. You don't want the compression ring to have a spot where the compression can shoot right through both gaps. And okay, it's ready to go back in. I'm going to put it in like this. Now to get it in, you need to compress the rings. See, these rings are sticking out. So you put this spring compressor, you put this on and you tighten it. You tighten it with a 1/4-inch drive ratchet, and it squeezes these rings flush. Okay, get to that point. Okay, I put the tool on and I tightened it so the rings are closed. As tight as it can go. And then I know this notch here means the front of the engine. This is to the left is the front of the engine, so I'm going to square it up. I'm going to move my crankshaft out of the way, and I'm going to put this back in, making sure it's pointing towards the front. And I'm going to take a small handle of a hammer and just tap it down in the cylinder. And you want to move your journal away so it doesn't bang it up. Looks like it's that one. Okay. Hit it too hard. Make sure this stays tight. And watch for you don't want to hit your journal wear. It'll be really hard to get these pistons in without this piston ring compressor. Really hard. I can see it's starting to emerge there. Okay, it's coming down. Good, and it's in. Beautiful. And then I'm going to keep tapping it down. Until it gauges your journal. Then I'm going to put this on and bolt it up. Be careful you don't bang into your journal. You don't want to put a scratch in that. Okay, I'm going to do that off camera. Put the cap on. Okay, I'm going to put the head back on because when I flip it over I don't want to get debris in this cylinder. It looks gasket, and I've bolted it here to the journal, both bolts. You can't see that one back there. I used just this. So I'm going to put head gasket on the head so I can go to the other cylinder. This is pretty straightforward. I'm going to use a little gasket seat. If you use a new gasket, you don't need that. Okay, I'm getting ready to put the motor back in. I put it on my crane here. Makes it convenient. And I'm just going to lower it right into where it goes there.